Well, hello and good morning, and welcome to our session titled Mining Yammer Data for Gold. I want to thank you so much for being here on a Friday morning, this Friday morning of Ignite 2017. My name is Dean, and I am joined this morning by an awesome group of Yammer MVPs. These are my fellow gold miners, if you will. We'll introduce them in just a little bit. Advance the slide for me.
That's them.
No metal can claim a legacy comparable to gold. It's a very precious metal. It's hard to find. Wars are fought over it. Love is still expressed through it. And technology exists in part because of it. But you know, the real challenge with gold is in its discovery. Every ounce has its own story, its impact, and its uses. Those stories serve to show the influence and the value. So, Dean, it's Friday. I was at Harry Potter last night. Why the metaphor about gold, man? Well, it's because when you're nurturing and growing and improving the value of your Yammer network, we got to pan, we got to sluice, and we got to mine tons of analytical ore to get to those nuggets of gold, to get to those stories that need to be shared. And I think the best way to do that is through an example. And so I'm going to hand it over to my co-host, Mr. Chris Slemp. Chris?
Hi there. My name is Chris Slemp, and I'm from Carpool Agency. We are a consulting agency, and what we are hired to do is not just to drive up the numbers of the people that use Yammer, but to use those numbers to tell a business story, a story about value, right? About gold. So what I want to do is start with a story to give you an idea of the kind of stories that this panel is going to tell us about. So the example from one of my engagements was that a retail organization came to us, and they said they had a Yammer problem. They had a problem with people posting to all company. They were very concerned about that. They didn't want people, their employees, posting to all company because they might leak something about stock inventory for some critical release that they were having. So they came to us and said, how do we fix that problem? So what we said was, okay, on our first meeting, we already had an analytics solution in place for that network, and we were able to come to them on the first meeting with, you know what, the size of your issue, your problem, is actually 3 times the size that you think it was. But there's good news too. So in the top left, you can see this is a Power BI dashboard, and we're going to walk through several of these today. In the top left, you can see that in your organization, there is a team that's not your biggest team, but it's a smaller team, but they are killing it on Yammer. They're doing all kinds of interesting things there. So what's going on there? What can we learn from that? Also, most of the activity over on the right is happening in private groups, so that's activity by group. So most of the activity is actually happening in private groups. Most of those groups you didn't even know about. So let's dig into those groups and find out what's going on. So there was a bad news but really good news story, and what that did, the reason that that's gold, is that now the importance of this engagement we had with them really increased, and they were actually excited to light up Yammer because good things were happening rather than just worrying about a compliance problem that they thought they had. So what Dean is going to do at this point is start taking us through 4 different ways that we can mine for gold, and for each of those we're going to have a little panel discussion about the kinds of gold that these folks have found. So.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Chris. Before we get started, I know some people just joined us. I gotta say thanks, man. We were thinking like 5 people. I had shirts for everybody, but no, I don't think I do. But this is overwhelming. This is the power of Yammer, y'all. Right here, Friday morning. All right, Yammer group statistics. So this is brand new. I want to mention a couple of sessions. Kaleem Rahman and Allison Michaels did an awesome session, I think it was up on Tuesday, about community building and the tools available from Yammer. This is one of them. And when we started thinking about doing this in April, one of the things that really struck us was, yeah, we're going to talk about the adoption content pack and we're going to talk about Power BI, but we'd be remiss if we did not talk to you about what's available out of the box and brand new from Yammer, and that's Yammer Group Statistics. And this session that I was mentioning, they go into this in a lot more detail. I have a screenshot, but I wanted to tell you about it. The good news here is there is group level activity, if you didn't hear already, in Yammer on a group level. Now that's awesome because you don't lose any time leaving the UI to go to another tool, which is okay. But you get right there, everybody gets it, it's awesome. And that's the good news. The good news is don't leave home. The kind of concern there is, though, just from kind of an overall perspective, is it's just on that group. So there's no roll-up. But having Yammer statistics back in the UI and on a group level is a good thing. The goal of it, understand if a group is active, encourage the community, and what you get. All right, tell them what they get. You get people and content. One of the things that we're going to talk quite a bit about during this session, and I'll shorten it, but I won't keep using the acronym, likes, reads, posts. We call them LERPs. So you get LERPs, and you get them at a people level and a content level. And this is very important. So let's take a look at that screenshot, and here it is. So this is I believe this is the last 7 days. Now, I've got some old Yammer friends, new Yammer friends in the audience, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw Kaleem show 180 days. Is that right? 7 and 28. Okay, I just wanted to make sure okay. Yeah, in 1 year. 7, 28, and 1 year. This is brand new, folks, so, give me a little bit of a break. And that's good. The other thing I wanted to mention here is this little blue button over here, download full report. So 7 days, 28 days, and 1 year. Posts, reads, and likes along the bottom. All right, so Chris, you want to lead us in a panel discussion on Yammer Group statistics?
So, for each method, what we're going to do is we're going to turn to the panel and say what kinds of gold can we mine from at this level, so to speak. And I want to kick things off with Simon, but before we start our first panel, let's actually allow them to introduce themselves. We don't have you here just for decoration. So
you don't have me for decoration? Really? No? Okay.
Well, if you were in your Iron Man costume from yesterday, yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to drop my trousers this time.
No,
okay,
not
right.
All right. So if you could just each take a turn left
yeah,
to
sure.
right here.
Probably easier for me to get up and point at some stuff because this is the kind of thing that you can get out of Yammer Group Analytics, right? This is the life cycle of one of my groups. And when you're mining for gold, you can see there's little spikes. Things are happening. And each one, I can tell you there's a story around them. The biggest spike, the 59,000 one, that's all about when we launched our 30 Days of Yammer campaign. And that was the impact upon that group. You can see there's immediate impact. And that tells me, as a community manager, that I've got to dig in. We've done something quite positive here. But also, if you notice, it's like a mountain. The bottom left corner, lower. The bottom right corner, higher. So actually, we've had a longer lasting effect. We've gone in to do something. We've made an impact, like switching a light on. We found that little nugget of gold. But actually, leaving that process, our engagement of that group is continuing on a nice upward trend. I can tell you about the next peak, which is about, we did a Yam Jam, and that shows width. So we ran a Yam Jam over a course of a few hours in a particular group with our MESA regional director, so our Middle East director, ask the boss sort of kind of session. And you can see, whilst the peak is not as high, it's wider. So that community of people in that group actually stuck with it for a lot longer, and they stayed engaged with more. And the final spike is, well, we changed our brand, right? And that creates an absolute immediate real buzz, and you can see that. And what I'm trying to show you here with this simple groups view, which you can kind of get from the data download from the new groups add-in, that even with a simple line, you can tell a really good story, and actually gradients, positive gradients or negative gradients, give you indicators of where you can dig in and look. So that is really what we wanted to draw out at this point.
And who are you?
Great.
Your name. Who are you?
Okay.
I know everybody knows you, but just for the benefit of those that
Okay,
don't
so
know.
I'm Simon Denson. I work for Mott MacDonald. I'm business architect responsible for all things Office 365, including Yammer. That is me.
Very good. Okay. All right, let's go down the line and just so that we know who you are.
Lonnie French, Digital Internal Communications Manager, responsible for our Yammer network at Guardian Life Insurance Company of America.
Becky Benishek. I'm at Crisis Prevention Institute in Milwaukee. I do social media and Yammer community management.
Melanie Hohertz, online communications lead at Cargill with a badly outdated title because now not only in addition to running the Yammer network and online communications and social channels, I'm going to own everything in the waffle.
Everything in the waffle. And okay, so Melanie, we've talked about these reports coming to groups themselves. Do you think that that those are going to be motivational for the community as a whole? Because now anybody in the community, as I understand it, can click on that report and see what's going on in the community.
You know me, I'm always a mixed bag on these things, and so my answer, and sorry for the voice right now, my answer is absolutely going to be yes, but. Okay, so let me start off with the absolute yes. Having this sort of information available at the fingertips of group managers is incredibly motivational. People have been wanting and needing this kind of information ever since this disappeared from Yammer's UI. For those of you who've been in the game for a while, maybe, what was it, 3 years ago? You know, then it was broken and then it disappeared. The thing is having this kind of information means that people are not coming to me, the network admin, every time they want this basic level of information. I like to think that self-service is the best service when it comes to data, and the more broadly available that is, the better, so that you can make those data-driven decisions. So say you're a group manager, and you actually do decide to try to take some sort of novel approach in your network for a week or for a month. You're going to want that immediate feedback on whether you have moved the needle. However, this is where I kind of get to the, the but. You know, my big thing has always been actionable data. All you're going to get from this, and granted, you're going, if you download the CSV, if you are Simon or you've got a Simon in your organization, great. You can dig into this, you can download that CSV and you can get your hands dirty, but not everybody has a Simon at their beck and call. And also not everybody has the time and the resources, because when you download that CSV, it doesn't come with those pretty labels that neatly identify what action you took. You may not have any idea what's behind those peaks and those valleys. And so, all I'm saying is that you're going to have to get your hands dirty, and you're lacking a very important piece of information here. You're getting people, but you're not getting names. And we're going to come back to that when we get to the adoption content pack, I think.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I also have kind of mixed feelings about this, because I was in the same position as all of you, people constantly begging me for what are the numbers on my group, right? And so this, finally, I can, it's right there for them, they don't have to hunt for it. However, part of the reason that I know Yammer actually hesitated on this a little bit is that it may put the focus on the wrong questions. Not just, post reads and likes is good when you're starting a community, right? Okay, there's people in here, they're doing stuff. Great step one, but what I'm hoping is that this doesn't stop people from wanting to ask deeper questions. If this just ends the conversation, that's a problem.
So sure for me. So obviously back to that graph, it's quite important that when someone sees a line like that, they kind of understand what they're seeing. So I think if you're working with your community managers and they're clicking on the right-hand side and seeing some group data, they need to appreciate that sometimes an immediate spike is good, but it's got a short-term sort of lifespan. A longer peak or a trough, those are the things to look at. So when people are getting access to these group things, it's really tempting for them to go, well, hey, my post did really, really well, and they see a massive spike, and then they hit the trough of really disillusionment when the day after they're getting no likes and reads and everything below. So I think as part of this process, you've got to kind of explain to them that this is what this kind of graph means. This is how to interpret it. And if you want to find out more, go into your group and start looking at the stories and the reasons why. You will see a spike. Go down the thread, have a look, and see what's causing that
So
thing.
if you're assuming group managers with this kind of well-developed context and perspective, you had better already have built a network and a community of all your group managers. And that's a very interesting assumption we're making here.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything you're dying to say, Lonnie and Becky? You're going to save it for later. Yes.
Because, and Mel's mentioned this before, still at a very superficial level, people do like to compete with each other. And
Yes.
I know that there are group admins in my company that will say, well, so what are your read statistics this week to other group admins? And I mean, you do want it to be quality versus quantity, but if you are starting a network or trying to reinvigorate it, having this really nice pictorial
Yep.
thing in front of you that people can put on PowerPoint and show, that'll help. And then,
Yes, it will.
you know, or they'll just, you can still keep doing your own job as a community admin with all the real nitty-gritty numbers behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think it's great instant feedback. So, like you said, as you're starting your network, this is a great way to see what's happening on a day-to-day or month-to-month, year-to-year process. And the point, I was just thinking the same thing, Mel, about the community management. So all of us have a network of community managers within our communities, in our wider communities. And I think that is something people take for granted, because you do definitely need that as you go forward. So all of my power users are coming and saying, hey, I need these numbers, but they have the experience enough to go and look behind those numbers and not just say, what does, I have a lot of likes and that's success, but let me dig a little deeper and ask those questions.
And one last emphasis on something Becky said that's actually really important, and I've almost paid the price for not learning this lesson early on myself. And that is that you need to communicate up as far as what successes you're seeing with your group in order to justify the time that you are spending on these groups early in the formation of a network.
Yeah.
And so having these beautiful looking things that you can take, snag it, and slap into a PowerPoint slide, all I'm saying is don't neglect that particular communication direction, or you may eventually pay the
Yeah,
price.
I think
Yeah.
Becky's going to dig into that a little bit later. So let's go from panning to sluicing.
Yes, let's do that. So something else that got a bit of an upgrade this week, Admin Center reports. And this is what my slide looked like on Sunday. And this is what it looked like on Monday. May 22nd, 2017. Yeah, reader roll, y'all. So now, this doesn't come, I mean, it's great. The reader roll is awesome. So what we're all talking about here, here's a little smattering of claps. The admin content pack previous to this week was restricted to the global admins, those guys and gals that duck you in the cafeteria. But for good reason, I mean, come on. But these guys are responsible for the tenant, so it's important. But part of the message here is Yammer listened. Yammer fought. Now, when you look at that list, it's global admins, Skype for Business, Exchange, and a SharePoint. There's no Yammer right there, right? Now we got a reader roll. So that's good, right? Okay, so with my reader roll, you still have to turn on that incredible community manager charm to get them to give it to you. But it's in the admin center. It's very easy for them to do, and we're gonna take a look at that. I'm gonna demo them. Oh, hey, time for Power BI. I was hoping I'd avoid this, but that's why you're here. So first thing I wanted to do, I need to jump over here. All right, here we go. All right. So one of the things that we wanted to do in addition to talking about the admin center reports and the Yammer Group statistics, again, part of the session is about Power BI. So can I get a kind of a show of hands real quick? If you've used Power BI at all, could you just raise your hand? Wow, okay, good, good. So I chose wisely at making this part of the presentation overview about a minute. So just as a review, 3 key parts to Power BI. Of course, it stands for Powerful Business Intelligence, a suite of tools that are used to analyze data. 3 key parts: the desktop, Power BI desktop, mainly for development, Power BI mobile experience for cool executives, and the SaaS service, the online service. That's what we're going to focus on today for the rest of us. There are 5 key building blocks. Visualizations are visuals, data sets, reports, dashboards, and tiles. And I'll just quickly show you those just in case you haven't seen it. Here we are in Power BI. I'm in my workspace. This is a dashboard. We'll start out with the notion of a visual. And this is a report and a visual inside of a report. A report is a collection of visuals on a page, a canvas. And so let's talk about data sets just briefly. Data sets are down here. And data sets are a collection of data that I use. Here's my blank canvas. And I use this data set in order to build my visualization. So let's go one more thing. Let's go back to the dashboard. One last building block, and these are tiles. These are tiles. So here's what you need to know. You connect or load a data set. You build reports on top of the data set. You take tiles, you take visuals, and pin them to the dashboard as tiles. And then you share it. Okay, so that's the Power BI piece. Let me go back to here. And I think it's time for another demo. Just make sure here. Okay. Now, in all truthfulness, I had to record my videos. Because so I don't time box myself, we're all going to the airport. Okay, so let me see. First thing I need to do is talk about Power Admin Center reports. Okay, so let's get the reports and take a look. This is what it looks like in the Admin Center. We've got 3. We've got activity, we've got device usage, and we've got that groups activity. So the first one here is activity, just in general, likes, reads, posts, or LERPs. And this is, you can see here, each of the points represent a piece of data. And now we've got it by users, number of users by activity type. You'll also notice across the top our time frames, 7 days, 30 days, 90, and 180. So here we are traversing across that graph. I'm going to go down and grab device usage real quick. And here are the users. Oh, my bad. Thank you so much for calling that out. Sorry. Here we have it on a device level. You can see we use the web a lot in iPhone. And then the last one is groups activity. And groups activity, we're a small network, so across the top are my total number of groups. It stays pretty constant for us. But you can see below I've got activity. All right? And then finally, number of group activities by type. So I went through this quickly to just get, have all of you seen this, or is this new to some of you? New to some of you. Okay, awesome. So I believe here, yep, at the last part of that, I circled export, and that's going to come in handy here because we're going to take some of this data. I'm going to go back. Yep, we're going to do one more demo here. Okay, now I'm in Power BI. I exported some data. I'm going to load this data. I'm going to go local, get my file, pick it up here, and import it really quickly. Now, again, the concept here is I was in Admin Center, I exported data, and now I'm pulling it into Power BI to create a quick visual. I'm down here in my data set. Remember, that's our collection of data we build on. I'm going to rename it. A best practice for me to find things, I rename it so I can remember it. All right, now what I'm going to do with that data set, got my blank canvas, I'm going to create a very, very quick visual. So I selected that stacked bar chart, and I threw a group name in the axis. And what we're going to do is we're going to get likes, reads, and posts on a group level, and then I'm going to add a quick slicer. So now you can see here my visual starting to build a little bit, and I'm just pointing and clicking, right? I'm just pointing and clicking at this point. I know what I'm looking for. So now here's a list of groups, and I'm going to put a slicer on here. What I want to do is I want to know, I want to distinguish between private and public groups. So I'm going to put my slicer on here. I'm going to dress this up a little bit. I use the ellipsis, and I'm going to sort by likes. That's how I like to see it myself. And now I can choose between public and private. And there we go. Very quick, very quick. All right. Whoops. One moment, please.
Escape.
My,
Just hit escape on that.
yeah, thank you. That's not it either.
You hate when you hit the wrong button on.
Yeah, why don't you pick up
I'm
for
going
me, Chris?
go into PowerPoint. All right. So as we're preparing for this session, so these admin center reports, we are asking our panelists here. So we've got a panel of experts on driving Yammer adoption. How many of you have access to the admin center reports? One. You do. And you have access to that one on the home network. Okay, but here's the catch. So yes, let me make one point, and then we're going to go to this issue here, Becky. So the point is that the reports that are created there in the admin center were designed primarily to give the owner of the service, meaning Office 365, an idea whether they're getting value from the licenses that they purchased. Let's be honest. That's what those reports are created for. And so getting that basic level of usage across organizations and whatnot, that makes sense for that. But what we're trying to do as a group is something a little bit deeper than that. And so they don't often have the full story. So Becky, you've got an interesting situation that would be good to talk about.
Well, I do have a Yammer home network, but my focus is actually with my Yammer external network, which if you haven't made one of those, it's pretty much exactly like your home network with a few things you don't get because it's not really tied to Office 365. But it's awesome for our company because I can invite in all of our customers. So the trouble though is if I want to see behind the scenes analytics, I can't get them unless I go to a third party, such as Tygraph. So I'm going to get up.
Uh-huh. And tell me when to advance your slides for you.
So here's an example of something I can get from Power BI with an external network because I can hook it up with those analytics. And the thing to remember with analytics is if you just look at it at face value with all the stuff I added, it can make you kind of panic because you see, wait a minute, there's some dips going down, there's some strange things, and you don't necessarily want to show just that to an executive or anyone who can fire you, say they're going to say what happened, or if they're comparing it to a previous year, what happened, and that's where you've got to remember that everything you're doing has people behind it, but this is where analytics can still help you show the value, but you still have to think. So for example, with us, with this slide, we just had a giant conference offsite in July, and people came and talked about it on Yammer, and I could record that using analytics. And the thing when I have the school year wrap up and summer begins, I know that our customers, our biggest market is educators. So by the time May's coming around, they're really not thinking about anything except wrapping up. They're probably not going to come to Yammer as much and talk about anything. They're on vacation, they're off somewhere, but things will start to ramp back up. And then, of course, this was a unique year because July we had our conference. Otherwise, that would be down. But August, we expect things to start shooting back up, and that's reflected. And it's been reflected year after year because I can track back. Even if you just start turning on Power BI today, you can go back in time pretty far, I've found. And it reflects the offline nature of our business. So for this one, and I matched it with, we did a Survey Monkey because I wanted to see what people were saying about our community is really working. So it's kind of cool to see that what I'm starting to see is matched with what people are feeling. You know, that our external network is working. They feel it makes us seem like a community instead of just a vendor. But that's still not enough. I mean, that's eyeballs. You still need analytics to back it up and show the value. So again, you know, with this chart I got from Power BI, you know, some of the messages, that's the blue, the engagement skyrocketing, that's the green, and then we've got kind of steady new users, and again, it dips down a little bit in the summer, and that's fine. You know, tell the bosses don't panic about it. And it starts going back up in August because our business is cyclical, and it's, again, it's reflected in our product and program sales as well. This is another registered users. This is something that my boss really likes seeing. This one's year over year, just for 2 years. And, you know, at some point, you know, we have to go in and really just see ratios and things. But again, it reflects that they're coming. It's kind of steady growth. And again, though, we can start thinking about it, though. Is there something we could be doing? Marketing, like just some kind of push, maybe not too aggressive, because we want our customers to be there if they want to be there, not just because we say they want to be there. And this one, it's very colorful. I do like it, but you know, if you look at it very granularly, we did have another conference in 2015. That's where that big spike came with the messages. Didn't have one in 2016, but we tried out 2 Yam Jams, which I mentioned before. It's live, hour-long topic, just held right on Yammer, and that really worked. And yet again, you still have to think, because well, those worked in those months, but maybe there's a better month. The analytics will reflect it. And then again, there's 2017, there's our conference, there's the spike. And it's matched with some eyeball stuff, saying that yes, they do find the space valuable and worth their time. Because believe me, our customers are busy. Where I work, they literally can save lives, and they're busy doing that. And the fact that they have the time to come on this community and meet each other and help each other is pretty awesome. But I got to show it with analytics, or I can't justify the spend and time, and that's important.
Very good. Thank you so much, Becky. And Mel, the thought occurred to me as well as we were looking at the admin level reports. As you mentioned, you're taking on a broader role across all of Office 365. So is that dashboard that we all saw demoed there, is that what you're going to use to, you know, demonstrate success to your management?
Well, at this point, I mean, because I've been working with Tygraph, I've had the ability to ignore the fact that I've been being ignored, if I might put it that way, with my requests for access to this type of information. But now that I'm going to have broader access to things across the waffle, I'm going to be relying rather heavily on this. It also, to my earlier point about the limited actionability of what you have available to you in-group analytics, you can get names at this level. And once you get names, you can start to get the information that you actually need to run a Yammer network, in my never humble opinion. Because the thing is one person running a network is going to be at a serious disadvantage. You need as many people, I mean, everyone's heard the phrase, many hands make light work. Well, it's many hands that make collaboration work. So as soon as you have names, you're gonna start to find out, instead of just based on your day-to-day observation of the group, who really are the people who are heavily invested in your group. And I always say that more group admins, the better. You know, when people have ownership, that's investment. You're going to be able to look across all your groups and find a person who's maybe not so invested in one group, but is adding value across many groups. And maybe that's what you would call a power user or a super user. And you want to form communities of those and feed them early information about new features so that they can help spread in the news and manage the network and help people. You know, and I like to say that, hey, if you are finding people who are incredibly passionate about this network, go ahead and make them, seriously, network admins. Because there's 2 levels of Yammer admins. There's the regular network admin, there's the verified. And I have actually network admin some of my, you know, my most dedicated users. So all I'm going to say is, you know, like basically, if you can, you want to try to use this information in ways that will help you grow and manage your network, and you have got to scale yourself.
Yeah, very good. Simon, are you going to be, I mean, there's a reader role available now, so are you going to open that up to a bunch of people? Are you going to end up exporting this stuff to Power BI anyway for them? What are you going to do with it?
To be honest, yeah, I'll open the reader role up to probably our executive level people who want a broader insight about what's going on, but I'll have to educate them about, you know, this is what a spike means, sort of trough and peaks like that. Yeah. But I won't open it up too far because the report reader role, unless we scope it down correctly, I really want them to focus on the reports that mean something to them, rather than them I can look at the exchange data as well, and digging in there and getting completely lost because we don't want them looking at email because email's bad. So I will kind of taper who it is, perhaps the most curious, but yeah, I'll have to give them that one-to-one sort of education how it goes through.
Okay.
Oh, can I just, one last thought, and there's always another one. Okay, so there's this interesting tension as far as who is going to be granted that reader role. Okay, so the thing is in order to get the most actionable information, in my mind, which are actual names, you need to be granted that reader role. And I have to say that after having worked with Cargill's technology governance and risk management for a couple of years, they're like that head in my voice next to my mother saying, finish that chicken, that's your protein. And it says, you have got to limit the number of people that you are going to advocate getting that reader report for, Mel, because my first impulse is to try and get as many of my really interested, really active group managers reader report access as possible. Not just me, I suddenly want to broaden that access. And so now they're really going to have a reason to avoid me in the hallways.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next level, Dean.
That sounds good. I just want to reassure everyone that Chris also can advance the slides. So if I have another brain freeze, there's about 7 people over here who said, hit escape, hit escape. All right, so going further, now we're at the adoption content pack. Let's take a look at this. All right, so as we heard this week, the adoption content pack, not only Office 365 admins, but when you are granted the reader role, you have the ability to go out and instantiate the adoption content pack. The thing that we're looking at here is understanding service adoption. It's about where and how Yammer is being used. The other thing that we need to highlight here is we're bringing in AD attributes, location, department, company. But as we all know, who here has like an awesome, completely, you put it up, clean AD? Okay. Couple guys.
Yeah, he's lying.
All right. Yeah. So, AD, 2/3 of bad. I'm stereotyping here, but AD, even in the content pack, they let us know that your mileage may vary, but it's a great place to start, right? So, if you've got great AD, this is going to be helpful to you. But it's there. That's the whole point. That's a good thing. Okay. All right. Let's.
So just while Dean's moving a slide on, it's a really good plug to tidy up your AD, actually, because there's so much in Office 365 that's now going to hang off that department field. You cannot believe it. So really just use this as your little kick and a little nudge to think about how that department field's used, and then give it a good tidy up, because you won't believe how much of all the graph cleverness will be hanging off that one simple little field.
That's a really good point, Simon, yeah. Simple little field, yeah.
Yeah, AD is very powerful. Just mileage may vary. Okay, we're going to take a look at this is the current adoption content pack that's in preview. As we heard this week, it will go GA in the beginning of the year, and it will change names to Office 365 Usage Analytics. So let's take a look at this. Again, this is something that I recorded. There are, let's see, about 23 report pages here. Yammer shows up on about 11 of them. In the communications section, if it were me, I'd have put it in the collaboration section. They didn't ask me. But it's in communication. And so help resources, these are very good. There's a lot of nice links here. We're looking at 12 months of historical data, but there's a but that goes along with that. Here's the first report. We've got an on-page slicer for the products, and you can see there I'm slicing, and I'm going to slice it to Yammer. When I do that, of course it cross-filters, shows me the Yammer data, and this is pre-aggregated data, but I can see it at the Yammer level, and that's what I wanted to do here. One other thing, if you're using an on-page slicer, a little combat tip for Power BI is if you hit the control button, you can select other pieces and just add them on in your cross-filtering as you go. So we're going to keep going here and take a look at the communication report. This report is, I've already got it pre-filtered to Yammer there, again, at the message level, likes, reads, and posts. And you can see as I manipulate that on-page filter, the slicer there, the graphs themselves change. So now I'm looking at all likes, reads, and posts. But if I were to deselect one of the lerps, that graph will change to reflect that. Okay, you see how that changes? That gives me some flexibility. I'm a very visual person, and that is something I really like, the cross-filtering capability. Now I'm all the way over to access from anywhere on any device. And you can see down at the bottom, we're looking at month-over-month counts for how people access Yammer. You can see in my organization, we do a lot with the web. So this is month-over-month count. Now we're going to go to the first one that is just dedicated to Yammer, the Yammer usage. We've got a gas gauge here for enabled versus active users. Our network's about 11%. There's a reason for that. I'll get into that. But you can see, look at that. Wow, Dean, you kind of sucked last in August. What happened? Well, again, like our panel said, it is an indicator of something that happened. And we did a Teams experiment in August. So that's how we know, right? Our usage went down. But again, we're just talking about usage and adoption. Here is Yammer user activity. This is where Mel was talking about those names. You can see we've got some on-page slicers now at the hierarchy. Now, with good data, I can start to filter by department or company or location. Good things to have. You can see there I used that column sorter to look at things from a department level. Now we're going to take a look at user adoption by product. I'm going to blow by this one and go on to adoption by departments. Here again, we've got the ability to tap into the AD, take a look at things by department. Yammer's down there on the end. All right, the last two columns, we're looking at license count and activity counts. And we're going to go to one more here. I'm going to look at this, couple more actually. No, this is it. Adoption by, this is my favorite. I love maps, big map guy. This is adoption by region. Right now I've got it filtered to all products. Then I can click on and see just where my Yammer users are located. So that is a very quick look at the adoption content pack as it's currently shipping today.
Okay. And so we've talked about how these kinds of reports were built primarily, again, for that service owner who wants to get the broad view of everything that's happening across Office 365. But at this level, as we said, we've got departments and regions. So Melanie, you've got a very interesting campaign coming up. Right? Okay.
Yep.
So how are you going to, will you be able to use the adoption content pack?
We're just going to call it ACP. Anybody a fan of the situation comedy called The Goldbergs?
No.
Yes.
What is that?
Yeah, so real quick aside. In that show, Barry is a teenager. He's got a group of people from Jenkintown Posse. And they go JTP. Every time I hear that, ACP!
You hear ACP.
I had to do it, sorry.
That tells you how much time he spends in the ACP.
That's right.
So what are you going to get from the ACP versus what are you not going to get from it, and how are you going to get that?
Okay, so that's just it. And you're always putting me in awkward spots, and that's just because I was elbowing you a lot yesterday.
Yeah.
So so the thing is I'm spoiled. And it's because I've been working with third-party tools for a long time, and it's also because Cargill makes such incredibly heavy use of our Yammer network tied into campaigns. We have been running campaigns for years because we've been in this business since 2012. We've got small, regular campaigns that we run, which some of you have heard me mention before. They're just called helpful campaigns, and so on any given month, if you post helpful information in our network at a place where someone might actually expect to find it, not all company, and you put the helpful hashtag on it, you can win a GoPro camera. And we've shipped those things all over the world. And what that does is that gets people to actually think about, hey, what do I know that's helpful that I could post? And it teaches them to use hashtags. But you're not going to get hashtag tracking from this stuff. So I'm not going to open this up for my small campaigns. So let me think about my medium campaigns. Cargill has run its Cargill Leadership Forum every 2 years, where we bring in our top 250 executives to the central headquarters, and they're busy with all these conference room activities locked away from the rest of the company. And then we decided to open that up with virtual participants from all over the world, and we hosted that in Yammer. And we put them all in Yammer groups together, so they were talking, and we assigned them mentors in Yammer, so they were having, dedicated conversations. And then we surveyed them when that was all done, and 90% of them absolutely loved it. And maybe I'll be able to track some of that information in something like that here. And in the medium campaigns, I also tend to think of the fact that we tend to run like ice bucket style posting challenges where we say, okay, so for we had this big one in 2014 for recognition, where you were supposed to recognize a colleague, write something nice about a colleague, recognize a colleague, and challenge 2 more people to do the same and keep the thread going. And for every recognition post, Cargill donated money to the World Food Program. We ended up donating thousands and thousands of dollars and running. This thing was supposed to go for a week, and it ran for a month, and it overran our network, and it totally consumed by November, 1 year, and that sort of thing. But this is the kind of thing we do, and I might be able to get some of that, but the hashtags are not going to show up. The posts and likes and the activity are going to surface. But also I have to tell you that we're not going to get any of Dean's pretty maps. Our HR data is crap. Seriously, if you don't have the databases to marry up with this, that really limits the amount of information you're going to get there. Yeah. And I'm just looking now at the gargantuan scale. I promise I'm almost done. See, the thing is Cargill is just at the beginning of launching a year-long campaign in Yammer, because now we're finally going huge, because Cargill is transforming the organization. It reorganized everything. It's going for a major cultural shift. They're calling it game change. And there is going to be everything from hashtag campaigns, day-long yam jams, week-long yam jams with global shifts around the world. We're not only going to want time slices, by days. We're going to try and get it for hours if we can. We are going to be grabbing onto GIFs. And now I know most of you, when you think of GIFs in Yammer, you're like, well, for one thing, can we turn them off? No, you can't. The other thing is when you think of GIFs, you think of SpongeBob SquarePants. When I look at GIFs, I say anyone can make a GIF these days. I can make a GIF when my CEO is obsessed with trying to get to a year of 0 fatalities. My CEO we can take snaps of him in pictures, and we can make a clever GIF of him getting off his phone in the car and throwing it in the glove compartment. And that is something where if we can make a bunch of GIFs with our leaders in both serious and silly topics, I can tell you right now, those are going to go viral, and we will start to encourage our employees to use and share them and to make their own. And we're going to make this thing go grassroots. And you're not tracking GIFs in this. The other thing is, as soon as Yammer introduces live video, you guys were at the roadmap, Yammer's going to introduce live video like Facebook Live. Not going to get it here, but we're going to try and be able to track. We need file views. We need file downloads. Am I getting this here, Chris? Am I getting file views and downloads here? So the thing is we need the heavy machinery. Yeah. And right now, we're just not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is let Dean roll his video, which I bulldozed right over, and show kind of how to create something from the ACP. But I know you've done some work to focus on like business unit level engagement. So watch careful, and I'll ask if that would help you with that.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chris. And I just wanted to mention about the ACP. There's 3 ways to create a custom visual. You can edit an existing visual, duplicate a page, and then edit and play with the fields. You can create a new visual, which is what I'm going to do here very quickly, or you can connect this to the Power BI desktop. Remember, that was one of the 3 key parts of the product suite. So I'm going to play this demo, and I'm going to talk you through what I'm doing here. So I'm on the dashboard. I see a visual. I go to my Yammer usage. I throw this guy into edit mode, and I hit the plus sign. Now I've got a canvas. Here I've got a canvas here. So now I want to create a visual about first-time Yammer users. So I'm going back to this is a stacked column chart. I pull it out a little bit to show that a little better. And I'm going to go get, I think I'm going to choose month name on the axis. Okay? So we're building as we go here. You can see one of my favorite parts about Power BI is it shows you very visually what you're doing at the time, and I really like that. So now I'm going to put first-time users as my value, and if I were to stop here, this is all first-time users for all products, but I like to filter to Yammer, as you see there. So I'm going to hit that, and now I'm just seeing first-time users. I've got them for March, April, and December. That's when I had them. I hit the paint roller, and I'm going to add a title to this guy. I'm going to change it from what it was to something that makes sense to me. So first-time users, type that out here in the title text. I'm going to throw the text size up to something a little better for my eyes. And there we go. First-time users, simple like that.
That's for visual. So, Bonnie, what do you think?
So I think that's great. I think what the point here is to go see the levels of deepnesses that we're getting as we're looking for the gold. So we have our group insights that we can get out of the box. We have the reader level reports now. We have the ACP. So depending on what you're looking for, and like Mel, we run a lot of campaigns and we need to get the detail of that. I think there's definitely gold in those hills in the adoption content pack, but we need more detail too. And so I think I'll talk a little bit in a sec about how we're doing that with our business area and HR data, which is cleaner than what we're getting.
We can see some general, what I'm hearing, the theme I'm hearing here is we can see general lift based on the things that we're doing, but we can't see the direct impact of the things we're doing and the nature of that impact.
And I think that's the key, just to add that you need that community manager or management or your power users to help interpret that data, depending on the story you're trying to tell.
Yes. So I had slides for you, and I think you talked about your whole story here, because I went out of order on you here. But is there anything else that you wanted to share there? You talked about the names.
I do want to add just one more thought, and this is, you knew I would. Okay, so the thing is what Lonnie touched on is what Becky touched on before, is if we are talking about the kind of information we can surface, I want you to keep in mind the difference between your gold. Your gold is actionable information. Your gold is insights about your network.
Yeah.
The gold is also what you communicate upward to the powers that be. Yeah. The people who give you the time and the resources, or maybe even the access to other tools and services, so that you can continue to drive different insights that may not be available from these tools that will enable you to take further actionable steps and yet more value.
Okay.
I just really wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay. So as you may have guessed here, our panel is kind of spoiled or used to mining at the deepest levels. And what we're used to is practicing kind of the art of the possible. There are a handful of partners that have done the hard work to extract every little piece of insight that they can from the Yammer APIs. They are from the Yammer APIs. They're there for you, knock yourself out, but these guys, what they have done is taken this data and made it actionable and made it easily accessible. And so that's kind of what we're used to doing. So allow me to paint one more picture of kind of what the art of the possible is, and then we'll go into kind of what are some of the greatest stories we have about finding some gold. So yeah, you have a few friendly neighborhood partners that have gone to this level. What you get from those solutions kind of varies by which solution you go with. But some of the key things, some of the key themes are that you can customize the date ranges. We've talked about campaigns that maybe you or your communications team are running. And you want to just get a snapshot of that particular date range, not just the last 90 days, for example. There is the ability to mash up with your own data. So we talked about it's great that we automatically get with the ACP, department and location, but that might not be the greatest data right now, and that's going to take a long time to clean up your AD to the point where that's really useful. So you could take a custom data feed from HR that is clean, that is used in these kinds of reports, and just hook that up with, make that another data set that then gets combined with the Yammer data, and you can use it to create some interesting reports. And I'll show you some examples of those in a minute. Plus, you go way beyond the LERPs, as Dean's been calling them, the post, reads, and likes, replies, shares, hashtags that Melanie was talking about. These are the kinds of things that you use to find the impact of both targeted kinds of campaigns as well as finding influencers, those people who are really driving the activity. So let me walk you through a little story of some of the things that we've done here. So this is my company. We're asked by a large division of a a big corporation to come in and kind of reinvent or evolve the way that their communications function worked internally. And what they had was a goal to make all of their employees feel connected and informed and that they were heard. And so that was the business goal. It wasn't drive usage of Yammer. We don't use Yammer. They didn't, by the way. They didn't use Yammer very much. They didn't even use SharePoint online very much. They were using on-premise farms. And they had been so out of touch with what was happening with SharePoint that we showed them what was going on online. And so we migrated a bunch of their sites to SharePoint Online as well. So this was a very multi-channel thing. And what we ended up doing was creating a dashboard for them that showed a combination of email analytics, so click-throughs on email. It showed reads and read time on the pages that they were publishing to SharePoint, and it showed their Yammer activity. So we could tell a story that said, okay, we sent out this email, because that's where everybody is. They're not used to using SharePoint and Yammer. So we sent out this email. Are we driving traffic now to SharePoint? What are the interesting stories that are being published on SharePoint? Which of them are being read for longer periods of time than others? We know what's really resonating with people. And then what of those articles are driving discussions now on Yammer, and what kind of interactions are happening there? So it was a full picture. That's what your communications team needs, right? Not just, oh, we're driving some Yammer analytics over here. Oh, we've got some email stuff going on. What's the full picture? What's the full story? Because again, they don't really care if people are using Yammer, and neither do I. What I care about is whether people are connected, informed, and feeling heard. And so what we found was when we looked at this data, we found that, so that bubble chart on the right is actually the SharePoint data that shows how long people are reading and how many people were accessing. So the ones on the top right are the articles that really resonated with people. And so we could see there were just a few of them. And we looked at the content of those versus what the content was of the others, and we found that what we had here was we could drive eyeballs to SharePoint and Yammer. That wasn't the issue. The issue was a content problem. The content wasn't compelling or interesting enough. And so we helped to work with them. We did some interviews, and we worked with them to improve the content plan for this organization. So that's gold. I mean, that's like, yes, now I know how I'm going to achieve a real business goal that sounds really fuzzy, but using hard data. So, more data raises more questions, but better data also lets you ask better questions.
And
I
tell
think
better
that's
stories.
and tell better stories, and that's the key. So, Lonnie, I know that you have a story you want to tell about some gold you found too.
Yeah, so I think it's a great point, Chris, as you were talking about what's the goal too, about not just what are those alerts, because that's really surface data, but what is the goal of the business area or region or initiative that you're starting, and what can this data, how can you use this data to help tell that story? So I want to share a few examples around how we've been using a third party to dig a little deeper and get behind some of those numbers. So the first slide, next, if we go through, is just a little bit about how we've been able to take some clean HR data into our Power BI and mash that up against our Yammer data, and look at the blue color is our power users. So we've been able to pull out where our power users are in the network and how they're affecting growth and engagement throughout. And really, a few points here, we can see that they're obviously trending and leading the way because the gold or gray line there follows for the most part, but the topics in the top right corner, which we don't get in other services, was really important here. So for the most part, the power users or power location is using the most topics, and these are the different types of topics. But the one that stood out here is the comparison one, the third one from the bottom, which was all other locations than our power users. So digging a little deeper into this, I was able to tell that there's a call center that has a group, and they use this hashtag comparison when they're assigning different calls or customers and trying to help our customers. So I would have not been able to find that in any other service. And then I can share this back with that team to say, hey, it's working. Your group is actually successful because of how people are following these topics. And then in the bottom right corner, like I said, most of the power locations are or the other locations are trending to the power location. But in May, it's hard to tell, the little peak there in the bottom graph is a little different than the power user location. And what was going on there is that one of our other locations in the Midwest opened a new building. And so we used Yammer to drive engagement with that location, to answer questions, to get them ready for the move, share updates as the move was going, and answer questions. So that was a good insight there, that we can see what's happening between the different locations.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yep. So just switching from region to business area, in general, this is our the engagement for all of our business areas here in different colors. We're a little unique because right now we don't have files turned on in our network. That's a whole nother story. So we focus on notes a lot, which I know will adjust in a few. So we take out our file views and downloads from the score. So what we're looking at from this third party is the May score, which is measure of active engagement. So I can tell which business areas are more engaged based on the criteria in the bottom right there. So our LERPs, but also those note views, tagging, app mentions, topics, shares, and new group members, and praise, which is really important for us too. So on the next slide, we just dig a little deeper into a specific business area. So I really like this story because our group business has, you can see, historically not been very active. So it's very interesting on what happened here in these different peaks. And as Simon was mentioned, like, have the stories to tell that you can know what's happening when you see the changes in activity. So earlier last year, they started a newsletter which was linking directly to Yammer content. Which was helpful. So they sent out an email, which was still a preferred method, but they were linking stories instead of PDF documents back to their Yammer community to drive conversations and engagement around that, especially around recognition. And then earlier this year, we had new leadership. So that's definitely key too, to get executive engagement on board with your Yammer network. And so we can see the evidence here of that change, that the new leadership started posting more in their Yammer network, sharing ideas, asking for feedback, and a long spike there. And then every year we have an initiative in the fall around Customer Service Week, where our frontline employees share what they're doing to support our customers and share stories and have quizzes, polls, and a lot of Yammer engagement happens in the fall right around Customer Service Week. So I like this because I can break down what's happening in the network and then go back to this business area to say, hey, using Yammer makes a difference, and you haven't done it for all this time, but now you started, and look at the increase of engagement and adoption you're doing.
Fantastic. Very good.
And is there one more? I don't know if you
We're
took
going
that
to
one.
skip
that one? Okay. Keep going.
All right. So open for discussion amongst you four here. So are there other stories of Yammer Gold that you haven't been able to tell yet, Simon?
Yeah, yes, I do have stories, but I think actually for the benefit of the audience, I think it really is the kind of more the summary piece around this. So hopefully so far you've seen a level of management of expectation that's going on. So at the top level you're getting this really high level helicopter view of this degree of trends and the degree of education that needs to go on around the understanding of it all. Management of expectation of community managers, because some of the features that people want just aren't going to come back at those levels, right? So you've got to appreciate that those things will never come. And like a prospector, you might be waist deep in cold water, but actually you're actually going to have to start hacking some holes in some rocks at some point in time. And the other part of this is how intrinsically linked this is to 2 or 3 data fields in Active Directory, right? And this is a world that most of you do not inhabit, don't want to inhabit, and I recommend you never inhabit. But it's a really good one to have a good chat with the man who runs AD or the lady who runs AD and say, actually, is our department field square? Are we getting a good feed into this, please? Are we getting city data into this in a good, usable fashion? And countries. Just keep it simple, maybe some business unit stuff. But that is your way of mining your Yammer data for gold. You get those AD fields right. You can do the group stuff. You can do the ACP. You could do the mashups with Power BI. You could buy a third-party tool and go completely start raking bonkers with the stuff, as long as you've got those fields cleaned up and done. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah.
You advance the slides, two slides. Hey, we'll take questions at the end. I want to get it. Can you want to just advance this? We got a couple more slides.
Yeah.
About that one.
Right here?
That guy. All right, so I think we're about ready to wrap. And
And take some questions.
yeah, definitely. But as we go into if you could start thinking about some questions you might want to ask. I had a couple things too. I wanted to make sure that we kind of left you with a couple of thoughts here. What we're about when we're thinking about data, we're really about showing the value of your network in the work that you're doing. We're about, no matter what level you're at, we're about validating your strategy, your campaigns, your initiatives, and we're about dealing with the velocity of change in Yammer. One of the things that we started with today, the Yammer group statistics now available on a group level, coming very soon. That didn't exist before this Ignite. So take that as a signal that the Yammer team is listening. Right? That's a very important signal that can't be lost here. The ACP will get an upgrade as well, and third-party tools are always going to be available as long as we're talking about social. The last thought I wanted to leave you with is very simple. Seek data, evaluate data, but be human. Because it's going to take that to make sense of it and move your organization forward. So I think we can take some questions now. It would be awesome.
That'd be great.
And this gentleman right here had one.
Yes.
You're first, and you get several shirts here, or maybe something. Okay. All right. How about one thing? Here's something.
So the first layer is adoption, vitality. Has any of you evaluated the capacity to do social project management? So, for example, he was talking about having clean directory with clean title, clean roles, somebody departments. The key issue is if you're managing a project and you see security is not involved, nobody of the security group is not involved, probably the project has an issue. There is a topic that's been debated over, and the volume on that topic doesn't diminish. It means that this project is stuck because of the conversation not going anywhere. Has anybody done anything in this direction?
Oh, that's interesting. So you're talking about how the activity in an area tells you something about how well the project or that department or whatever is performing. So I heard a really fascinating.
Not department, project management, because otherwise it becomes noise. Social project management.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, part of what I'm hearing in your question, though, is almost comes down to sentiment analysis.
Yeah.
Because you're sort of saying if you have a great amount of traffic around a particular topic, passion can be good, passion can be excitement, it can be energy, passion can be frustration and throwing furniture.
Yeah.
So the thing is I have yet to find a sentiment analysis engine that I would put any stock in my Yammer network.
Right.
This is because we have a global network, 70 countries, and if I can't even get a good translation on Bahasa, you're not going to tell me what temperature that comment is.
Yeah, and this is a rare moment when she and I disagree.
Rare.
Okay. Well, you go.
Go ahead, Simon.
Okay, so I am far enough to disagree this time, so I'm not in range. Why don't you take one of the things I want to try and do, and what I'm going to try and do next year, is take a whole load of messages out of projects. We run 16,000 projects per year, right? So is take a whole number of messages out of a project and feed it through Lewis and some sentiment analysis through Azure, right? And then just kind of see what the kind of trending is going to come out of that, and see whether we can identify based on the cash flows against what the behaviors that we're seeing in the group. But that's a really sort of emerging experiment. But it's something you could try today, right? Mm-hmm. Text extract, export it out, fire it across to the Azure Cognitive Services piece, see what it spits out, get some money graphs alongside it or something, and go, well, actually, what is this telling me anything?
Yeah. So I heard of one very fascinating experiment around this. What they ended up concluding was that the corpus of data, in other words, doing sentiment analysis on Twitter is one thing, but doing it on Yammer is the data is just not enough to get that really rich. What they did find was that, so it was actually the security team that did this, believe it or not, and what they did was they found that when the department had a rise in angry and frustrated emotions, you saw more leaks from that organization.
Yeah.
It was
We,
interesting.
and we
So-
act differently
So
too,
there is
right?
there is something
Yeah.
there, but I just don't know it until we have truly activated all of our networks, until our Yammer networks are going from 10% to 90%. I don't know how much.
No,
we're
no,
gonna
it
like
is
And what we
feasible.
will have an argument about over drinks later is whether that is actionable.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
There we go.
That
The
was
so what
that was
metric.
the issue.
Can
No,
we?
no, it is feasible. We're running this experiment with a defense company. I was wondering how rare is this, but we are already in 6 months of this experiment.
Yeah.
So it's feasible.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
Thank
We
you
got
very
a line
much for the
behind you. Thank
question.
you.
Joe?
Great questions.
Hey guys, 2 questions. The first one is with respect to LERPs. Do you each of you have any formula that you use for creating an engagement number for each person based on those values? And I ask that because I've seen some extremely out of bounds numbers, especially with respect to reads, like people have read more things that are actually in the entire network. So there's the first question. The second one is, I guess Melanie, more to you, is with respect to measuring your campaigns and looking at the post layer, which posts are trending based on comments, based on likes? Have you got any insight on how you approach those?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Becky's still processing, so I'm going to,
Yeah,
yeah.
thread in.
External networks, I don't do that individual stuff.
Yeah. So tell me if this doesn't, speak to your question or anything like that. For the example that comes to mind from my network is the Global Travel Services Group, which has, it's an interesting beast all by itself because it's got a nice core basis of membership, but almost all the posts are always from people who are not members of the group because you tend to come to this when you need information or when you have a problem. Those are the 2 key drivers there. And they publish newsletters in our group. And typically, I am so not a fan of newsletters, and you can get me on a 30-minute rant, why not later? But the thing is they publish these newsletters, and the readership statistics on those blow every other file in my network out of the water. They are astronomical. And I thought these things were outliers. But then I recognized that the travel services people said that sometimes they get people who ask them to resend the same travel newsletter to them multiple times because they consumed some key fact out of it and then they deleted it and they forgot about it. And 2 months later, they're asking for it again because there's something else they need. And I'm also seeing data that I'm kind of putting together with it a little bit, that Cargill, while they've been pushing all this information out through this group, is seeing a steep decline that it wants in its travel spend through increased compliance with certain programs and providers. And I'm starting to say, okay, I'm usually inclined to question any numbers that really seem genuinely wackadoodle to me, but I'm starting to see a universe of data that kind of is as a supporting web for what I'm seeing there.
Yeah.
And so if you do that on a post by post, you do it just for a group?
Just,
do it
this
for-
is more on an exception basis. I
Okay.
don't
Yeah.
have time to,
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
it's the same reassurance that I give everyone in my network that I'm a network admin, that I don't have time to read all your private posts. I don't have time to chase every example. It's part of the reason gold mining is important. It's why I love hot threads, in my third-party network, is because I only got so many hours in the day.
Yeah. So with respect to the LERPs, I just throw mine out there. I just created a number, which is essentially a post is 5 times more valuable than a read, and a like is 3 times more valuable than a read. And so I just
Yeah.
created a number that
Yeah.
says for person X, here you go.
It's a great point, Joe. We've done something similar, but from a product
It's
level.
still important to remember, is it Stan Garfield always says that as long as people are reading and taking away information, it's still valuable.
We've got.
It would be an interesting slice to examine, and I would be willing to give it a look.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily willing to bet the farm on it, because there's all different kinds of value
I
that
don't
we
know if there's
want
a
in
size
certain
in here.
content that we put in the network.
Yeah.
This may be more of an observation than really a question, but in the admin center, there's an option to anonymize all of the admin center reports. And I'm kind of curious your reaction to you want to broaden access using reader role, which is very new. My concern is that if I push too hard on that, there's going to be a push to anonymize all the reports, which will reduce the value of the data.
Yeah. That's a great point.
The big European challenge is what else it should be called, right?
Exactly.
The right to be forgotten. Houston?
Yeah, that's a point to bring up with your. So it's a conversation to have with your privacy experts in your organization before you start opening up the reader role. Absolutely.
Thank you for the question.
Hiya. So you talked about getting Yammer networks to sort of 90% to make the analytics more usable. What would the panel's one thing be to drive greater Yammer usage?
Oh
in the
my
networks?
gosh. How many sessions have we had on this?
One thing from each of you. Your top tip.
So mine is have a business scenario that you're trying to drive.
Yeah, what problem are you trying to
Yeah,
solve?
make it business focused. If it's about the tool, it will fail.
Sure.
If it's about,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it sounds like a no duh, but you'd be surprised. How many
Find your
times-
pain points.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how can the tool help you solve your issues, problems,
Yep.
goals, strategy?
And
Yeah.
be patient. It can take people years to suddenly find, hey, this pain point can be solved by Yammer. And then you're there saying, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only other thing is don't try to make sense of this data in isolation, because what may look like success to you, you need to stay in touch with those local stakeholders to tell you what's actually happening in that local area, or you can be completely making up a narrative that does not apply in any way, shape, or form to reality on the ground.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to, anonymize your graph, right, so we can't identify who it's from, and throw it out in the tech community and say, how do I interpret this?
Yep.
What does this mean to me, right? And see what
Okay.
people say, right, and give you a steer.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
might be a really good way of doing it and socializing it that way. Because they suffer really badly from reads and likes as well. Their analytics engine means that you can just scroll the wheel and you can get top of the leaderboard for all reads and likes. So just to pick up on the reads and likes, just on the read and likes question. A
Little
few
tip for
seconds
anybody
ago.
who wants to be an MVP, right?
Yeah, and we're out of time. One more question?
One more question.
Yeah. Can I get you a shirt?
Okay, a couple of questions on the product.
Can I get you a shirt?
Diagraph. Like, do you guys measure any kind of sentiments
Okay.
of the
Was that a
messages?
tie graph question?
Yes.
Okay, you're definitely getting a shirt. On sentiment analysis, right? I was also in a similar boat. We found that Azure ML, we're getting some really good results from that, but it's positive, negative, right? It's one or the other. We don't have it in the product yet, but we have some deep testing that we're doing, and it'll likely be in a future release.
Okay, and second question, we know that Teams has been introduced, and most of the Yammer conversations are now happening on Teams. And
Nope.
at least, I'm like,
At least. Were you in our session yesterday?
so,
Yeah, I've got one of those. Yeah, I do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So at least
how much
some
money?
of the like project level conversations that used to happen on Yammer are now like bringing into Teams.
Yeah, and that's
so,
okay.
So are you working on the metrics that can merge those two metrics and like
Absolutely.
conversation?
Yeah, from a product perspective, absolutely.
Okay.
And I would expect our competitors are as well. But
Okay.
we're going to be where the conversations are happening.
Yeah. Well, bear in mind also that if you have a team, you can put a Yammer group as a tab in that team. And the thing is if people then say your team is 6 or 8 people collaborating intensely around a Power BI sheet, because everyone knows Power BI is awesome inside Teams. You hardly need to jump out at all. And they're collaborating like mad around a Power BI sheet, and they run into a wall. They got a problem. What they're going to want is they're going to want my Power BI Yammer group in that tab of 3,000 people who are obsessed with Power BI from all over our company and do not share a deliverable, do not share a manager, do not share a language or an organization to help solve that problem for them. And they also want to go out there and brag when they actually do create something awesome. And you're going to be able to track all of that activity because the Yammer group inside that Teams tab is fully functional and you're still collecting all those signals right through everything we've shown you today.
Right, so I see the other speakers are right behind, right? So just finish up. Our session yesterday was all about Yammer and Teams better together. Yeah, Teams data is in the ACP as well, so you could mix and merge that stuff. And then, I thought you were speaking next. I was cutting you off. That wasn't very fair.
Yeah, we'll take this question off mic so we can let people go. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you.